Sodienye Rasaq Clarence Ojewuyi, or Sodi as he's well known as, is one of few African actors in Scotland where he is heavily involved in the movies circle. He has been leading actor in many of the handful of black movies that have been made in Scotland. Among some of the acclaimed movies, to his credit, Champagne Room, Switch, and one of the most recent film projects shot in Scotland and in Nigeria will be showing at the Africa in Motion Film Festival, which is an annual festival, and that film will be showing on Saturday, the 14th of November. I think it is in Edinburgh. Sodi, welcome to the Inspiring Transformation on Jambo Radio. Thank you so much for finding the time to talk to us today. Now, I just wanted to find out from you. Where did your acting career started? Did you start in Scotland?
No, it didn't actually start in Scotland. So, also, thank you very much for having me on the show. You guys are doing a great job, and I'm really, really proud of being part of it. So, my acting career started back in Nigeria as a child. I started off doing school shows in primary school, and one time I ended up on TV. The National Television Authority (NTA) in my state at the time, and I just carried on from there. By the time I got to secondary school, I managed to do an advert for Coca Cola. Okay. So I was on the Coca Cola billboard, and then I did a couple of TV commercials for eateries as well, and then. So I left it after that for some time, and then moved on to acting. I didn't go very far because then I had to leave Nigeria. So I left Nigeria and then got to Europe, and then I just continued.
Wow. So it's quite a journey that you've taken, but. I mean, coming out of appearing on a Coca Cola advert, that must have been a very big thing.
Oh yes, it was. It was life. It was life changing. In fact, I didn't even see that one coming. I got scouted in secondary school. Even this particular day, I wasn't even in school, and this gentleman had come looking for me. He didn't know me particularly, but he was able to describe me because he had seen me on a kids talent show thing. So he came over to the secondary school to look for me, and the next day when I was in school, I was told, and then he came back, and that was how we started. And then I ended up on the Coca-Cola billboard. It was a big one, yeah, it was really big, and I think that was the actual inspiration I got to actually to move forward to do more of it.
Wow. Okay. Some of the characters that you've played in the movies that I've watched, the movies that I think it's wonderful. I find your character especially in Champagne Room and Switch remarkably interesting because your character seems to be always where there is big money involved. Do you decide to play the lucky character? Is that who you are, or the director decides?
No, it's an absolute coincidence. The director always decides, and you see, another thing I've come to realize, whether we like it or not, actors can be stereotyped into roles. So sometimes you'd have certain actors, no matter how good they are, and you know that they can diversify, you always want to put them as a lead character in a comedy, some in tragedy, some you want them to be rich, some they are fit to play people that are poor. I don't know. So I just have a feeling that probably the director thinks that the role that suits me is one that has money and enjoyment. So,
what's also interesting is that the fact that you're always your character in Champagne Room especially is not the main guy with the money, but it's a guy that always where the money is, and he always seems to have something with these people that really get the money. It's quite interesting. It's kind of similar thing which as well, and I think tell us a bit about this Switch story? Let me go into that one, because that's one of some of your recent projects. Switch.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
quite different.
So
with Switch, so slightly different from Champagne Room in the sense that this character, the character I played, already had a job, wasn't particularly very rich, and then his friend traveled from Africa to visit and switched bags at the airports mistakenly, and these bags contained diamonds. And my character decided, alongside his girlfriend that he came to visit, that the diamonds should be sold, and then we keep the money. So we tried we tried over a few days to sell the diamonds. It didn't particularly work out very well, and then obviously there was a tragic end to his girlfriend's life as a result of that. But then the twist, if you would call it, is the fact that I was able to gain something out of it as well. So without going too much into the story.
Yeah, and Champagne Room is also your character in that one. It's also not the main guy with accessing the money, but you always have you kind of know how to get it.
Yeah, so with Champagne Room, I was the guy that traveled. The character traveled from Africa. The character was a journalist back in Africa and had to flee Africa because of persecutions, and got to Europe. He struggled for a bit, but then eventually he met people that were into drugs, money laundering, trafficking, and things like that. And then he had to get involved somehow because he was blackmailed into doing it. So eventually he became close to the guys with the big box as well.
So obviously with with Tonflix online platform, Tonflix being the production platform that you're on, and there's an online platform now where people in Scotland can watch movies that you appeared in, movies that are made in Scotland by Scottish and African actors, and the Africa Emotion Film Festival also getting stronger. Do you think, or do you feel like the stage is now set for other aspiring actors from the African and Caribbean communities, for example, in Scotland, to step up and start telling the African and Caribbean stories? Obviously, it's a very good link there from what you were just saying earlier, that Champagne Room, the character that you play in Champagne Room being a journalist from Africa fleeing in. So do you think more of those stories need to be said now in Scotland?
Yes, and I would say we are happy for the online platform Tonflix. The reason being that some of these stories, even after making the films, you don't really know where to take them in Scotland. Who is going to accept them? Who wants to show them? And is it a story that they really want to hear and see? So with Tonflix, we're able to share this online, and when you stream movies online, then there is no limit in terms of boundaries, because people can watch all over the world. So so that's a good thing that have just been set up. Now with the stories and aspiring young Black or African actors, Afro-Caribbean actors, this gives us, I would say, a niche that we can then broaden, because there's only so much you can do to break into mainstream Scottish movie industry.
Yeah.
Also because of the kind of stories they tell. So if they are telling a story that has to do with, so I'm just thinking, like, let's say, for example, the 1930s, 1920s, you wouldn't have had a lot of Black people in Scotland, maybe none. So you wouldn't expect these people to be in films like this. So, but if we are telling stories about what happens with our community in Scotland, then you would have people from our community in these movies. So sometimes it's a struggle to break into the industry just because of the kind of stories they tell as well. So yes, Tonflix it's doing an amazing job, and it is going to help actors from Afro-Caribbean society to actually move up the ladder as well.
So it's about time for especially young aspiring Black actors in Scotland to look at the opportunities that are there and some of the films that Tonflix been doing. So I'll just remind our listeners that there's tonflix.com, so you can go there. You just need to sign up. You don't need to pay for anything. It's not Netflix that you pay for it. So you can sign up on tonflix.com to access African movies, movies that are made in Scotland, with connections to Africa and made by Black actors and directors who are all involved in that. Let's talk about how you being a Nigerian actor in Scotland. You see, you revealed something here in this interview which I wasn't expecting, that you were on a Coca Cola advert back in Nigeria before you ever left Nigeria.
Yeah.
So I would have thought, you would have survived a bit more from the back of that success that you had going on a Coca Cola advert. How are you surviving your acting career in Scotland when you could be making big money in Nigeria, basically?
Okay, so with the Coca Cola advert, I was a teenager then when I did this advert, and at the time I didn't have a clear direction of what I wanted to do in life, if I wanted to go into acting or not. So it was an opportunity that I had to just jump on. That was the case at the time. Now moving forward and looking back, I feel that if I had stayed back, it's a 50-50 chance. I would have probably broken big into the Nigerian movie industry. Now, but bearing in mind that at the time when I did Coca-Cola advert, the Nigerian movie industry wasn't as big as it is right now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't probably have envisaged that. So even if I make it big there, it's not really going to be that big. But looking at it now, over the years, it's one of the biggest in the world, and we've recorded some fantastic success stories from Nollywood. So yeah, there is a possibility that I would have made it big, and as you said, with big pay and all that. But I'm still grateful for where I am at the moment as well, because in as much as I've not gotten to where I would love to be, I have been able to secure a ladder, and I now know how to climb the ladder, and I'm doing it one day at a time. So Scotland is a great place to be an actor. Unfortunately, the movie industry here has not been tapped into as much as they should. People come from all over the world to shoot movies in Scotland. We've seen situations where the city center of Glasgow have been transformed into the US. These movies could have been shot in the US, but they prefer to shoot them in Scotland. And then obviously with the amazing landscape as well in Scotland, some epic movies have been shot here. I've been on set on some of them as well, playing smaller roles. So it's a great place to be for an actor, but obviously you just try as much as you can to find the right place and be at the right place at the right time. So that's another thing that one needs to look out for.
So would you say, I mean, you had to carve this niche of acting in Scotland, well, because based on the fact that you were already exposed to acting before you arrived in Scotland. But there are people that you must have met that started their career in Scotland. They want, or they are on the path to become actors in Scotland. Do you find them having different challenges from your experience, because you were already into it before you came to Scotland? But the people that are starting in Scotland, what are the stories that they're saying?
I think they probably have it. They find it more difficult. Starting here, for me, the rudiments, I would say, I learned before I actually joined the industry here. Some have to learn here, and because they don't have the, would I say, they don't have the chance to be picked to play lead roles
Right.
quickly.
Okay.
That becomes a problem. They can play minor roles, but getting that one break to play a lead role becomes an issue. So I'll give you an example. My first, when I started, I did a few music videos. I did minor roles. My first lead was Champagne Room, and then obviously with Tonflix, I was able to do Switch. I was able to do City of Dreams. I was able to do Entangled. And there's another one. I don't know if you're aware. It's a new film that we shot early this year as well. That's still cash and carry. That's still due to come out. So I've played lead roles in all these movies, and it has helped me. So when I go for auditions in Scotland, I kind of have an edge over some of the people that have only just started here and they've not really had their big break. They are still camera shy. Some of them are still a little bit timid. Some of them can be, they feel stressed out once the camera is in their face. Luckily for me, I've gone past that stage. So that's how I have an edge over them. I remember 2 years ago, I went for an audition in Scotland, in Govan. There were lots of black people there because the audition was for one black person.
So I can imagine the whole of
so all the black actors turned up. It was only for one black person. I had just returned from Nigeria filming, so that was the next week after I had returned from Nigeria, and I was on set for like 2 weeks in Nigeria. So I went in front of the camera. Obviously, there will be a camera for auditions and things like that. So I was very comfortable because I've just left the camera. It wasn't an issue. If you're making a film, you expect to see 20, 30 people behind the camera.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an issue when you see 5, 6 people behind. So I went there and I did it, and I got the role for that film. It's a feature film. It's actually they're doing the premiere just now, mostly online premiere, and the title of the movie is Limbo. It's by an award-winning director, Ben Sharrock. So I got for that movie and I played the movie. The movie was shot on the Isle of Uist up north.
Yeah.
That was where we went. So so that was how I got the role for that movie. And as I said, because of my background and because of past experience, I feel that I had an edge over the others when I came over. And let's not forget that another thing again is that they were looking for an African that will play an African that just arrived.
You were coming fresh from Africa.
I was fresh from Africa. I'm able to still keep my accent.
Yes.
And also tap into other accents as well. As an actor, that's what you're supposed to do. So I believe that I was more convincing when it came to the accent as well. So for roles like that, I will have an edge over people that are just starting their careers here.
Yeah, so clearly it's your experience from your past experience of playing a role, starting off very early in Nigeria, then being in this Coca Cola advert back then, and then and then you're quite experienced with a bit of involving with a crew. So I was just thinking, because you will know that we have a lot of young people that aspire to be like yourself. They try to try things, but their challenge is completely different. The fact that they perhaps they face different challenges compared to yourself that would have already have experienced a bit of that, had the opportunity to be exposed before
Yeah.
that. Do that. So I was just wondering though. I've seen some of the. I mean, I've seen I've seen Champagne Room. I've watched Switch, and I've not looked at Entangled yet. But I kind of recognize some of the you know the actors that are on those movies.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, what was it? A person that is training here, or person that is trying to trade their acting career in Scotland, what sort of barriers do you think they face? Apart from the fact that they don't have experience like yourself, but if they're looking for an African actor, you will come off first because you've got so much more exposure with the things that you've done already. Do you think it's important to keep doing these things that you're doing, for example, now and then you will get the opportunity to get a big break?
Yes, it's first of all, one of the, because you've asked for some of the barriers that they would face.
Yeah.
Some of the barriers, or one of the barriers that they will face, is a barrier that's not just them, but I also face as well,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the barrier of the story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're here as a black actor,
Mm-hmm.
how many films are made that actually require an African in it and the story? Currently, there are some sitcoms, soap operas, or series that we watch on TV, especially down south in England, that you would find one or two black families in them. We're talking about the Emmerdales, Coronation Streets, and the rest of them. These series have been running for so many years, and then you see black families in them.
Mm-hmm.
We have the same kind of concept in Scotland as well. Ours is called River City.
Yes.
Scotland, yes. There is no black family in
Mm.
River City.
So that's lack of representation, you're saying?
So, lack of representation is going to be the first barrier you're going to face. Because if they're not going to tell stories that have Africans, that shows that Scotland is not just made up of white people, Glaswegians, or whatever, then you're not going to go anywhere.
Mm.
So that's going to be a barrier, and for them, and as I said, it's a barrier that I face myself as well, because unless they tell these stories, there is no way I can be on TV.
Mm.
If the stories do not require a black person, and then I'm not going to be there. I have been on some. I've been on a series as well. This is a huge one in the US. I've played very 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 minor roles in this particular one, and it's called Outlander. It's a very very big one.
Yeah. Outlander was shot.
And time. Yeah, Outlander shot
Okay.
in Scotland. They move anyway, and some scenes were shot in South Africa and places like that. But mostly Outlander is shot in shot in Scotland, and mostly around Glasgow as well. So it's easy to access Outlander now. But the difference with Outlander is that the story led them to a point where they were talking about the era of slave trade.
Mm.
So that era of slave trade, they need black people to actually make those scenes.
Of course.
So there were lots of black actors that were on Outlander. Some even they had to go and recruit people from outside Scotland because they needed so many of us. So they had to get people from outside Scotland. So for stories like that, for that series, for the scenes that they needed these black people, we got lots of work for it. But that's only because the story required black people. And the era that they were shooting, they could not shoot that era without having these black people in the film. So that is a major barrier. So when you decide that you want to become an actor, yes, you have the skills, you might have the experience, you might have the potential, you might have everything going for you. But if they don't tell the story, you can't be on TV, you can't be an actor.
Yeah.
The stories need to be told that require you to be there. Representation needs to be part of it for you to be there. If not, there's no way you're going to be on TV. And then another thing that the industry needs to realize as well is that not every black person has a London accent. There are some black people in London and some black people in Scotland that actually still speak with, they still use their African accent.
Yeah, of course.
So if you really want to represent all these different people that live in the society, then try to cut away the idea or remove the idea of having people with this particular accent. Some of them are from Africa. So if the person looks black, if the person is black and the person has an African accent, that's what you should expect to hear. Not that you're wanting to you want to make a Scottish movie, but you want a black person with a Scottish accent. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so those are some of the that's like a major barrier. Then obviously you have the little ones, as I said, with accent, and then you have the training and the opportunities. So in terms of training, where do you go to train? Where are the places where and how much do you need to pay to get this kind of training? And as an actor, if you don't have another stream of income, you might struggle because you might only get one or two jobs, big break in a year. So what happens to your bills for the rest
The
of
rest.
the year? So those are some of the struggles that they might face, challenges.
Wow. So surviving is, it's not an easy thing, based on some of the numbers of challenges that your barriers that you've highlighted there, Sodi. So I was gonna ask you, so in the context of a black actor in Scotland, it just means if the Scottish stories are not being set inclusively, it means they're redundant. It makes people like yourself redundant from having any work, which means you now have to do something else to
Yes, yes.
live before anything can come up. Wow,
Mhm.
that's quite challenging. So I mean, we just need to have this a conversation there, because I know that there's quite a lot of talented a lot of talented black people that are trying to, get into the creative industry, but it's always a struggle. But I've always wondered why, and
Mhm.
yeah, I think we share the same story basically. But I always wonder why are we always struggling to get into the creative in this industry? Is it because are we not good enough, or I don't see much of the difference that other people do, but I just know that, in the creative industry, you need talented people, you need people with passion, you need people that believe in what it is. So, at the bottom line of what you've just said, Sodi, is if this stories in Scotland, River City, you mentioned there, if they continue to tell that story of Scottish lifestyle without involving the inclusive, well, making the Scottish communities or society looks inclusive, then they're not telling the full story.
No, no, they're not. But what they've done, which is quite interesting, is an idea of using people of other ethnic groups as background.
Mm.
So,
Right.
so for
Okay.
example, so two Scottish actors will be having a conversation, and then a black person will pass behind them.
Just an extra.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that they've, so if they ask them the question, so have you had black actors on this production? they can score. Yes, that they have had black actors on the production, but that does not give you, as an actor, it doesn't give you any credit.
No.
If that's all you get to do, then you don't get any credit for that.
Yeah.
So more has to be done because, as I said, where the way, for example, I'm using River City as an example because it's supposed to be like a Scottish BBC program. Like,
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm using them as an example. So
Yeah.
a story like River City um, is um, is a story about a community in
Yeah.
that shielding community. Now, in that community, you probably have maybe one or two, probably have maybe one Asian,
Mhm.
but the Asian would most likely have a Scottish accent, a very
Mm.
strong Scottish accent as well, maybe born and brought up. But the this community, what we find is we actually find currently in Scotland, you have more people that have just migrated. So we don't even really have, when it comes to the black community, we don't really have fifth generation. We're not talking fifth, sixth
Mhm.
generation. We're talking maximum, maybe third.
Yeah. Well, I think we're second generation, basically.
So maybe second.
Yeah.
So
Well, it was
so
generation.
so so most of the people you would find in Scotland are people that have just moved over, that are struggling to settle down. These are the stories that people want to hear. They
Mhm.
want to know how the people. Okay, so if you find a black doctor in a sitcom, in a series, how did the black doctor with an African accent? How did the black doctor become a doctor? How what's his background story, and what's his story in the series, in the film that you're watching? Because most times we find ourselves in hospitals, and the doctors that attend to us, they have very strong African accents,
Yeah.
and they've only been here for maybe 3 years, 4 years, as the case may be, because they'll go into some kind. Yeah, you'll have a chat with them, but no, we don't see that. We don't see that in the industry. We don't see that in the movies. And as I said,
Mhm.
if they are able to get one black person to pass behind the two people having a conversation, then that's the box has been ticked, and it's not doing us any favors at all.
Yeah, this resonates really well because I think people like yourself are pushing the boundaries, because which is all why we do inspiring transformation, because it's about people that are pushing the boundaries, and what you're saying is quite true. I've watched a bit of River City. It's not reflective of the kind of society that I live in. It's not reflective of Scotland that I live in, because it's complete. It looks like a community completely outside Scotland, but part of Scotland, but outside Scotland, I
Yeah.
don't describe it. But yeah, which is quite right. So we are in the position where trying to push the boundaries and make these things happen is having this conversation that we've started having. And I think that you and Olumide, whom I've had the privilege to speak to as well on this program, and the Tonflix initiative is really good, because you've also done a movie recently, Entangled, which is shot in Scotland and in Nigeria, I hear.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Entangle will be showing at the Africa Emotion Film Festival. I think we should bring that in. That'll be on Saturday, the 14th of November next month. So I think people should watch that. But it's taking place online, so I think people will be able to access that. So what's the story about Entangled?
So Entangled is a story about a widower
Mm,
with children, two sons, and typical African story. And the mother wants him to get married, to remarry and have a wife because of the children.
mm,
And he brought back a lady um, that his mother did not think was fit to be his wife and stepmother to the children.
mm,
So she went to the village and got him a village girl, and then the the whole story of the chaos and the controversy that started, whereby Obviously, the mother doesn't like his new girlfriend. The new girlfriend doesn't like the lady that was brought from the village. Lady from the village does not like the lady as well. The children are caught in between these two people, and they also don't like. They weren't so sure about the village girl, but didn't like the father's girlfriend. And then it's a romantic comedy
Okay.
in essence. And then obviously you get to the end of it, where it's all smiles and hugs and happiness at the end of the movie. So yeah, that's a
So this is
story.
so your character there is the main is the African boy that came back, or was it your
No, so the story was set. The setting actually was Nigeria, Lagos.
okay, right.
So so the mom was actually the one that traveled from the village to the city to see her son. And that particular movie we had to make in Nigeria. So sometimes this is another constraint as well. So sometimes instead of making these movies here, because of some of the issues we have in trying to make the movie, we will need to go back to Africa to get it done. And because in some cases it might even be cheaper to travel all the way to Africa to make the movie and then bring it back.
I've I've had the privilege as well to speak to some other people that are involved in the film industry, and I think one of the things as well is trying to get you a proper makeup, isn't it? So
That's interesting.
how do you deal with that?
That's interesting. There's a joke I always tell on set when we're filming. So they come. This is interesting. They come to you and they say, "Oh, it's time. It's time for makeup, costume and makeup." Comes over. Can I get you over to makeup, please? Say yes. So you see, they take like a white girl over. And then they say to the white girl, "Oh, okay, so we need to pin your hair up, and I just need to brush your hair a bit. I need to do this, and I need to put some foundation, and I need to do that, and I need to do that." And then the girl goes away, and then so they get the black girl over, and then they look at her, they look at the hair.
Can't say the same thing.
They're like, "I think you're fine. I think the way you are is okay," because they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with the foundation. They don't know what to do with the hair, and it's not their fault because there's only so much they can do in terms of what they have. So they look at you and then they always just say you're okay, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So
do you think that is down to ignorance, or what
I don't think it's ignorance. I think it's down to the tools they have.
Okay.
So you've brought in a makeup artist that actually have not worked with a lot of black people because you don't really make a lot of black films. So, or you don't really make films that involve black people, rather. So you bring her in, and the foundation she's got is only for white people. She's not going to put a white person's foundation on a black person's face. Or sometimes they can try, but then when they do, it doesn't come out well. And then when they go to study, most of the time, the people that they use as their models are also white people. So they've not been able to do for white, black, Chinese, Indians, and so they struggle with these things. So it just makes me. I don't consider it to be their fault. I just feel like they need a bit more training in that area. And then obviously, the more we begin to do movies that will incorporate other ethnic groups, then they will get better over time.
Yeah, inclusive stories, basically.
Inclusive stories, then they will get better.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that being in that I'm not in the film industry, but I think I belong to the creative in the sector. So I'm quite interested to know how everybody is experiencing their own sector. I mean, their own stories in this part of it. What do you think? I mean, you've just mentioned that we should be doing perhaps more inclusive stories, but the challenge there is paying for those movies, those stories to be told. The people that have the money, they don't want to do it. So what should we be doing, Sodi? What do you think we can be doing?
So what we should be doing is do what we are doing just now. First of all, this is a great platform for us to have this kind of conversation. We don't know how many people are listening.
That's right.
It's important that we keep saying it. One day it will get to the ears of the right people, and then at that point they will probably have to look into it. In the meantime, we'll keep saying what we're saying, and then we'll keep making movies in our own little ways. Now, there are community projects that we can actually do. We don't need to wait until we have a budget of Hollywood. We don't necessarily. So you have films. You hear films like high budget movies, low budget movies, and then we also have no budget movies.
Yeah.
So if we can even start with no budget movies, that would be absolutely fine. Let's start from there. Let's begin to create content and put them on the platform. Take them to BBC and say, look, we've created this. If you want to show it, and then to other outlets as well.
Yeah.
But we need to carry on. We need to keep doing what we're doing just now. If not for, as I said, if not for Tonflix, there's no way I would have had a lead role. Maybe I would have dropped acting a long time ago. But having the first, the second, the third, fourth, lead roles in his movies, and then I was able to branch out and I got lead roles in other Scottish movies, Hollywood movies, particularly, and that helped. That helped a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so a platform needs to be existing that would give people the opportunities for them to basically perhaps harness their craft, their career, and build confidence as well, so that they can take it forward. So as you mentioned there, I think that's one of the things. But do you find that people are a bit reluctant to involve in things that there's not payment involved?
So yes, that's a big struggle when it comes to a big struggle when it comes to acting, especially when in fact, I think it's probably the whole of the creative industry, to be honest. When you start out, when you're only just trying to find your feet, you're expected to do jobs for free.
Yeah.
Unlike if you go to a call center and you've never been a call center agent before, the first day you sign your contract, you're expected to be paid for it, even while you're undergoing training. Now, I don't know how we can solve this problem. It's probably time for us to look into having more money in the creative sector that can kind of bridge this gap, because there are people that really want to go into it, but there's not very much they can do. They'll rather end up in a call center because they know that from the day they sit there, they start getting paid. If you go into training as a student, you are not. If someone is calling you to come and do a film, in most cases they're not looking to pay you.
No, absolutely.
You can add that to your CV and things like that. And I've seen lots of people drop out of the industry just for that reason, because say, you know what, I'm just going to go and get a day job. Now, yes, if you get into the industry and you make your big break, yeah, you can, just by doing 1 or 2 films, you can make enough money for the whole year. So obviously you'll be on set for a while, but you can make 2, 3 films if you're playing a lead. That's enough money that can last you for a whole year. If you go on to get a series, then you're on it every month. It's like you get like a monthly salary, and then you don't forget about the other things that come with it. Brand ambassadorship, adverts and every other thing that comes with it. So yes, you can, but how do you start? So as you said, it might be a struggle to try and do any of these things and asking people to come and do it for free. But I'll also tell you that there are lots of actors that understand the trade. They understand how these things work, and they know that they need to go and do it for free. First, the sacrifice that they have to make. It is not a pleasant thing to do, because you leave your home, you go out, you will do this work, and you come back home with nothing, and then you still need to look for money to still pay your bills. It's not really pleasant, but there is no alternative at the moment. For things like that, there's no alternative at the moment. So we'll just need to still appeal to conscience, to people's conscience, to try and work with us until we get there.
I agree with you. I agree with you because again, it's about having this conversation on public domain and putting it out there, and then make that. But do you think all these barriers, are they systematic, or what do you think they are? Do you think they're ignorance or systematic?
I don't think they are ignorant, because everyone knows. Like it's almost out there that that if you're starting out in the industry, you won't really make money at first, unless you're one of the lucky ones. Maybe your first thing you go for your interview or audition, and you get that big break, and then it just carries on. But if you have to climb the ladder gradually, then you might not. It's just the way the system is.
Yeah,
That's why I say systematic. It's more systematic than rather ignorant. It's the way the system is. If you leave, for example, I got a call once from a student director. She was doing a final project, and she said she really needs to talk to me. And so what she wanted was an actor, an African actor with African accent and everything. And a lot of people had directed her to me. But then the problem she had was budget. So she's had other people, she'd spoken to one or two other people, but she still wanted me in the movie, and it was more about the budget and how she was going to be able to afford to pay me, because it was a student project. But then at the same time, I noticed that it looks like she didn't want to do it within the confines of her own budget. She wanted to go slightly out of her budget, because if she wanted to do it within the confines of her own budget, then she would get a student actor to join her on that project as well and do it. But she wanted something a bit more. So I accepted to do the job, ex gratia. And I said to her, you know what, don't worry, I understand where you're coming from. And she was elated, she was happy, but deep down, I was just thinking, I was like, oh, I feel sorry for her, because she thinks that this is the end of it, but no, it's not. She would need to make this kind of calls going forward for God knows how long.
Yeah.
So I was saying, I'll do it for free. Let's forget the pay. I'll get there. I'll do it, and because I know the kind of industry we found ourselves in.
So there will be no. I don't think there's any better person that can really narrate some of these stories that you've narrated here, in terms of the barriers, the lack of representation, and the themes that or the stories, the Scottish stories that are told that are not inclusive. I think I can't think of anyone that would have said this better than you, to be honest with you. And I'm also thinking, there is something that I think I've heard, I don't know how true that is, but is it true that most people that make it in the acting industry are people that have a good support mechanism? Like, for example, they might come from a bit more wealthy parents that will support them while they carry on doing the stuff that they're doing, going on set for free, doing some short movies or long movies or whatever for free. Do you think that support mechanism is required?
Yes, to a large extent, yes, you kind of need that. The reason is because, as I said, you don't expect to wake up every day, leave your house that you need to pay rent for, your bills, and then you go and do movies for free and then come back. So who pays the rent? Who pays the rest of the bills? So unless, of course, there's someone else doing that for you, or unless the government has. So if we have gotten to the stage where people in the creative industry can register as, of course, there is something like that where you say you register as a self-employed, but then how do you check how many times this person is able to get a paid job to go on set, or for even for musicians to go on stage, and then the government subsidize as they do for other people that usually leave work or for one reason or the other, or are out of work. So we don't have that yet, and I don't know how that can be created. I don't know what can be put in place. So in most cases, what we'll find is people that have that kind of support mechanism that you've talked about are the ones that can carry on in the industry. Either they've had money saved on the side. When I started, I was working full time still in the bank. So what I used to do was, I work, and luckily because I was working with Olumide, we could plan our shoot dates around the days that I'm off, or I'll take a holiday, and then my holiday will just be to go and film. So that was what I did, or just to balance things until I started getting like very good paid jobs within the industry. But during that period, that was what I had to do. And some people, when they try to do that and then they don't get jobs within the movie industry, they tend to just focus on their day job, and then that's how they leave the industry as well.
That's I can imagine some people have basically lost out the opportunity to do what they like to do, and career path and things like that. So my last question would be, what does it take to be an actor, and does your movie character influence your real life? I really want
Okay.
to ask.
The second,
Yeah,
the second question is quite interesting.
yeah.
Okay, what does it take to be an actor? When you go to, when you make movies, when you become an actor, you practically pretend to be someone else, and it's like leaving your body and taking over someone else's body, and act the way the person would normally act in real life. So it's mostly to become an actor, it's interpretation. It's to be able to interpret a character when you read a script. So most times when it's just like reading a novel, you've probably picked up a novel and you're reading a novel, and then you are acting. You already have a picture of what this particular character in that novel looks like. Though you've not seen, there was no picture of the person, but you can see, oh, this man must be a very greedy man. He might be one of those people that don't like changing his clothes, or has one old shoes that he keeps, and he's stingy. So you already create this impression in your head. So when you pick up a script as an actor, to become an actor, you pick up a script, you read, you should be able to interpret this, saying not just about the lines, not just interpreting the lines, but also getting a clear picture of what the character looks like, sounds like, acts, sleeps like, eats, whatever you can think of about that character. You kind of embedded, you get that embedded in your head, and then it helps you to interpret it. So being an actor is like being an interpreter. So basically, someone is saying something, and then you are in the middle, and then you are interpreting it to the world. You're letting the people that don't understand the language that this person is speaking, you are now interpreting that to them, because it's what you have been given. You were given a script with no actual physical person there showing you what to do, but you read the lines, and then you are now telling people the story, and then people are able to understand the story just by looking at you, hearing you, and seeing your actions. So being an actor for me is more like being an interpreter. So that's the first answer to your question. And then the second question is whether or not the characters you play influence your real life. I don't think so. No, because you hear when people say, "Oh, are you still in?" I don't know if you've come across that phrase, but are you still in character? Okay, now you can come out of character. So it means that once you finish playing that role, you need to come out of that character and then go back to whatever it was that you were doing, back to your real life. But I would say your real life can influence your character, not the character that you play influencing your real life, but your real life can influence your character. So I'll give you an example. If you are a soft-spoken person, the way you will interpret a character of someone that is angry would be slightly. Sometimes you might try to leave yourself completely and interpret, but you might find yourself showing the anger the way you would normally show your anger in real life. So that's, or if you're trying to show empathy to someone, you would find that you do it the way you would normally do it in real life. So it's your real life influencing the character rather than the character influencing your real life. Because once you finish playing the character, you dump the character and you need to go back to reality anyway. Because if you were pretending to be happy on set and you were actually hungry in real life, you pretend to be happy. Oh, I'm full, no, and they offer you food on set, and you're like, no. The character says I shouldn't eat. I said no. That's it. But you are hungry. So as soon as you get out of that character, the next thing you're looking to do is to go and eat, because that's what the real you wants to do. So that's how I would answer that question. So it's more of your real life, your person influencing the character rather than the character influencing you.
That's very interesting, because I've always wanted to ask that question, and I knew that when you accepted that you're going to come on that stuff, right? I'm going to ask him this question. The best person to explain this to me, because I don't know, because there's always the life is full with dramas,
Yes.
So
Yeah,
you don't know if people are just dramatizing stuff or they're really be affected over this. But I always used to wonder, like, how do actors do come out of character? But you've given a very clear example there. Obviously, if I'm starving and the character is not supposed to eat when they're shooting, the real me will be starving.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. So yeah.
Sodienye, Rasaq, Clarence, Ojewuyi, that's a very long name, but Sodi, popularly known. Thank you so much. You are an African actor and based in Scotland, and you've had quite a series of different acclaimed movies that you've appeared in, which you've revealed in this interview. Outlander, and there is one in the making, Limbo, which you mentioned, and and people can watch some of your stuff on tonflix.com. Tonflix.com. They can sign up there and watch some of the African kind of take of African stories, inclusive African stories that you've done in Scotland, with an African diaspora perspective that you're based in Scotland. And there is also a movie that you've done with Scottish actors that are involved, that you've done. Actually, I think I heard you did the filming, some part of the filming in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. That's right.
That's quite fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for accepting to come on. We have enjoyed the time spent with you, Sodi, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.